I used to believe that if you raised your child with love, sacrifice, and honesty, the world would return the favor through them. That belief lived in me for decades, quiet, unchallenged, almost sacred. It died the moment I came home early from my cruise. But before I get there, you need to understand who I was before everything broke. I'm a 62-year-old widow living in a 2-story colonial in Connecticut, the same house my late husband and I bought when our daughter, Emily, was still in diapers. Every stair creak, every hairline crack in the walls carries memory. Christmas mornings. Arguments that ended in laughter. The night my husband died in the downstairs study, his coffee still warm, his hand still holding mine. This house wasn't just property. It was proof of a life built the hard way. After my husband passed, Emily stepped in, or at least that's how it looked. She helped with paperwork, insisted I add her name as backup on certain documents. Just in case, she said. I didn't question it. Why would I? She was my daughter, my only child, the person I trusted more than my own shadow. Friends told me to be careful. One even joked, "Kids these days think inheritance is a payment plan." I laughed it off. I raised Emily better than that. Or so I thought. The cruise was supposed to be a reset. 2 weeks in the Caribbean, sunshine and silence, a break from grief that still clung to me like damp air. Emily encouraged it, pushed it even. She offered to keep an eye on the house. Told me not to worry about a thing. That should have been my first warning. I've always been the kind of woman who reads fine print and double locks doors. But when it came to Emily, my guard dropped. Love has a way of turning intelligence into blind faith. On the 7th night of the cruise, I woke up uneasy. No dream, no noise. Just a heavy feeling in my chest, like something precious was being mishandled far away. I tried to ignore it, ordered room service, watched the ocean, told myself I was being paranoid. Still, I booked an early flight home the next morning. I told no one. Not Emily, not friends, not even myself really until I was already packing. Looking back now, that decision saved me. Or maybe it doomed me to see the truth sooner than I was ready for. Because trust, once broken, doesn't shatter loudly. It cracks quietly, behind your back, inside your home, in the hands of someone who knows exactly where you keep the keys. And I was about to walk straight into the sound of that crack. I landed just after midnight. The house should have been dark, silent, familiar in the way only your own home can be. Instead, as the taxi pulled away, I noticed light spilling from the upstairs windows, warm, deliberate, occupied. Emily hadn't mentioned staying over. I stood on the porch longer than I needed to, keys cold in my hand, listening. Voices drifted through the door. Not loud, confident. The kind of voices people use when they believe they're alone. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. The smell hit me first, fresh paint and expensive coffee. My living room looked staged. Couch pillows rearranged. Family photos gone from the mantel. In their place, neutral art, minimal and personal. Like a hotel trying to pretend it's a home. My heart started beating wrong. I didn't call out. I didn't announce myself. I followed instinct down the hallway, every step careful, every breath shallow. The voices grew clearer as I reached the study, the room where my husband died. The door was open. Emily was inside with a man in a tailored suit. Papers were spread across my desk. Floor plans, legal documents. A laptop open to what looked like a real estate listing, photos of my house, polished and wide-angled, stripped of its soul. Then I heard the sentence that split my life in two. "She'll be back in a week," Emily said casually. "Plenty of time to finalize the sale. Once escrow closes, we move her into something smaller. She won't even notice the transition if we frame it right." The man nodded, "And she's agreed to this." Emily laughed. Not a nervous laugh, not uncertain. A sharp, dismissive sound I didn't recognize. "She doesn't need to agree. I have power of attorney. She signed it after Dad died, barely read it. I told her it was for emergencies." My legs felt weak. I grabbed the doorframe to stay upright. Sell my home. My home. Not because I was sick. Not because I asked. But because it was convenient. The man flipped a page. "And the proceeds." Emily shrugged. "I'll manage them. She doesn't need access. Honestly, she's not good with money anymore. Too emotional. Too emotional." I wanted to scream, to storm in, to slap the truth out of her mouth. But something darker, quieter took over. A cold clarity. Rage sharpened into focus. I realized then that this wasn't impulse. It was a plan, calculated, practiced. She hadn't just betrayed me, she'd been rehearsing it. I stepped back silently, heart pounding, mind racing. If I confronted her now, she'd cry, apologize, gaslight, twist the story until I doubted what I'd heard. No, I needed proof. Control. Time. So I went upstairs, closed my bedroom door, and sat on the edge of the bed that no longer felt like mine. Below me, my daughter continued dismantling my life, one signature, one lie at a time. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling fan, counting rotations like they could anchor me to reality. Every few minutes, I heard footsteps downstairs, cabinets opening, drawers sliding shut, the quiet confidence of people who believe they owned the place. Because in her mind, she already did. By morning, my chest felt hollow, like grief had scooped something vital out of me and left only air and ache behind. I kept replaying Emily's voice. She won't even notice the transition if we frame it right. Frame it. Like I was a picture to be rehung somewhere cheaper, smaller, easier to ignore. I kept asking myself the same question over and overs. Where did I go wrong? I raised her alone after her father died, worked double shifts, missed birthdays so she could have college tuition paid in full, defended her when teachers said she was manipulative, when friends said she was cold. I told myself she was just strong, smart, ambitious. Now I wondered if I'd mistaken warning signs for virtues. At breakfast, she acted surprised to see me. "Mom," she said, eyes wide, then quickly softening into concern. "You're home early. Is everything okay?" The performance was flawless. That hurt almost as much as the betrayal. "I wasn't feeling well," I replied, watching her carefully. My voice sounded calm, almost detached, like it belonged to someone else. "Thought I'd recover better at home." She smiled, relief flashing across her face for half a second, too quick to be accidental. "Of course. I'm glad you're back." She poured me coffee in my mug, slid it across my table, and chatted about the weather, about work, about nothing. All while knowing she was quietly stealing the ground from beneath my feet. Part of me wanted to believe there was a misunderstanding, that maybe I'd misheard, that if I just asked, she'd confess, apologize, tear up, tell me she was scared of losing me. But another part of me, the part that had survived widowhood, loneliness, and years of silent endurance, knew better. People don't accidentally list houses online. They don't accidentally prepare escrow documents. They don't accidentally call their own mother, too emotional, to deserve control of her life. I went to the bathroom and locked the door, sat on the edge of the tub, and finally let myself cry, quietly, bitterly into a towel so she wouldn't hear. I wasn't just mourning a house. I was mourning the daughter I thought I had. When the tears stopped, something else took their place. Resolve. If Emily believed I was weak, confused, and dependent, then that was the version of me she'd continue to see. I would play the role she wrote for me, soft, grieving, grateful. But behind that mask, I would prepare, because love may have made me vulnerable, but betrayal had just made me dangerous. I spent the next few days becoming invisible. That wasn't hard. Emily already saw me as background noise, something aging and sentimental, useful only when it stayed quiet. I leaned into it. I moved slowly, asked her to repeat things, let my hands tremble just enough when I signed routine papers to reinforce the story she was already telling herself. Meanwhile, I watched everything. She took phone calls on the back porch now, pacing, voice low. I caught fragments through the screen door, closing timeline, cash offer, no contingencies. She was in a hurry. That was good. People rushing make mistakes. I started where she didn't expect me, to my late husband's old filing cabinet in the basement. Emily hated that space, said it smelled like dust and sadness. I'd never corrected her. Down there I found copies of deeds, mortgage releases, insurance policies. Proof that the house had been paid off 15 years ago. Proof that it was solely in my name, had always been. Then I found the power of attorney document. It was real. Worse, it was broad. The kind lawyers warn you about. The kind you sign when your heart is broken and someone you love says, "Trust me." I didn't tear it up. I didn't confront her. I copied it. The next step was harder. I needed help, but not the kind Emily could track. I called an old friend from church, someone who'd quietly gone through a brutal divorce years back and never talked about it unless asked. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she said only one thing: "You need a lawyer who specializes in elder financial abuse." Hearing those words applied to my life felt surreal, but also grounding. Like naming a storm gives you something to track. The lawyer I met 2 days later didn't sugarcoat anything. He confirmed what I already suspected. Emily was skating the edge of legality, using my trust as leverage, but he also smiled, thin, knowing. "She thinks you're unaware," he said. "That's your advantage." We began quietly locking things down, revoking permissions, placing alerts on accounts, recording conversations, legal ones, documenting patterns. Not revenge yet, preparation. At home, Emily grew bolder. She brought brochures for retirement communities, talked about simplifying my life. Once, she even suggested donating my furniture to charity to reduce clutter. I nodded, smiled, thanked her. Inside, I was counting moves like a chessboard finally visible to me. She thought she was relocating me. In reality, she was teaching me exactly how far she was willing to go. And when someone shows you that, you believe them. I chose my moment carefully. Emily had scheduled a meeting with the real estate agent, a final walkthrough before listing went live. She was brimming with confidence, practically glowing with the thrill of possession. That morning, I made breakfast, poured her favorite coffee, smiled as she chattered about escrow deadlines, and nodded politely. Every gesture measured, calm, and unthreatening. She had no idea the storm was already forming. After she left for the meeting, I retrieved the copies of the power of attorney and other legal documents I had carefully secured. My hands didn't shake, if anything. They were steady, focused, deliberate. Years of silent endurance, grief, and betrayal had owned me into something I never imagined I could be: precise, patient, unyielding. I called the lawyer. 5 minutes later, he arrived. We reviewed the strategy quickly and quietly. The goal wasn't public spectacle. It wasn't anger. It was reclamation. Emily had assumed I was weak. That assumption was about to be corrected. First, we froze all account access that she had exploited. Bank transfers would require my signature. Investment changes, my signature. Any attempt to move or sell property, blocked immediately. Then, we sent a formal notice to the real estate agent the listing was unauthorized, the property under legal dispute. Copies went to the escrow company and mortgage holder. Finally, we drafted a legal letter addressed to Emily. It was brief but searing in its implication. Any further attempt to sell or manipulate my property would result in criminal and civil consequences. The words weren't cruel. They didn't need to be. They were simply the truth, written in a voice she couldn't dismiss, twist, or ignore. By the time Emily returned from her meeting, I had set the pieces. She walked in, a stack of brochures and keys in her hand, expecting me to smile and thank her for handling everything. Instead, I was sitting at the dining table, sipping tea, looking calm, collected. "Mom, how was your—" she started, then froze when she saw the lawyer with me. "Sit down, Emily," I said softly. My voice had a quiet authority that made her pause. "We need to discuss something important." The color drained from her face as she noticed the official letters on the table. My documents, our lawyer, the bank notices, every detail meticulously prepared, all of it evidence of her overreach. "Mom, what is this?" Her voice trembled slightly, not the fear of a child caught in mischief, but the realization of her own miscalculation. I sipped my tea. "It seems you forgot one small thing. I know exactly what you've been doing." Her eyes darted to the letters, then back to me. The carefully rehearsed confidence she had displayed earlier evaporated, replaced by something raw: panic, regret, disbelief. I let her stew in it for a moment, savoring the tension that hung between us like a storm cloud. Then I said simply, "You will not sell this house. You will not touch my finances. And you will never underestimate me again." For the first time since I returned home, I felt a small flicker of satisfaction. Not revenge in the cruel sense, but justice served quietly, cleanly, and precisely. Emily didn't take the warning lightly. The next morning, I found her parked in front of the house, pacing, phone pressed to her ear, eyes darting to every window. She was trying to negotiate, manipulate, and intimidate all at once. But this time I wasn't the frightened mother she thought she could toy with. This time I was the one in control. When she stormed through the front door, fury blazing in her eyes, I stayed seated at the dining table, tea untouched, calm, calculated. "I don't understand, Mom," she snapped. "These papers, the bank, you can't just—" "I can, Emily," I interrupted, my voice steady. "I've been preparing for this long before you even started plotting. And if you think shouting or threats will undo the facts, you're mistaken." Her hands trembled. "You're ruining everything! I had plans, my life!" "I was going to. You don't even understand." I leaned forward slightly, eyes cold but measured. "I understand perfectly. You thought that because I trusted you, You could rewrite reality in your favor. You thought my love would blind me. It didn't. And it won't." She stared at me, a storm of desperation and entitlement clashing in her expression. Then she lunged for the documents on the table. I didn't flinch. My lawyer, standing silently behind me, gently guided her back. "This is not a negotiation, Emily. This is your chance to stop digging a hole you won't be able to climb out of." Tears sprang to her eyes, bitter, angry, and oddly self-pitying all at once. She accused me of being unfair, of being manipulative, of never loving her enough to trust her. The irony wasn't lost on me. She had destroyed the very trust she claimed I lacked. I let her speak, because confrontation isn't just about silencing the other person. It's about letting them reveal themselves fully. Every word she spat, every accusation she threw, confirmed exactly what I already knew. She had no moral compass for what she considered opportunity. Finally, I spoke. "Emily, you crossed a line. You've made assumptions about what I could or couldn't do, and you've underestimated my strength. You have two choices: you walk away, and we begin to rebuild some form of trust, or you continue, and there will be consequences far beyond your imagining." The silence that followed was deafening. Her chest heaved, her hands shook, and for the first time, I saw genuine fear, not for herself, but for the loss of control. She looked around the house, as if seeing it for the first time. This wasn't just property to her anymore. It was a battlefield, and she had underestimated her opponent. Then she spoke, voice small, brittle. Maybe I went too far." I didn't respond. I just sat back, letting the weight of reality sink in. For the first time, she understood that power isn't given, it's earned. And betrayal doesn't vanish simply because you apologize. The days that followed were quiet but heavy, like the air after a storm that's passed but left destruction behind. Emily didn't leave immediately, but her energy shifted. No more casual manipulation. No more forced smiles or rehearsed concern. She moved through the house like a ghost, always careful, always measured, always aware that the game had changed. I watched her from a distance, noting every hesitation. Even the way she poured coffee seemed different, slower, almost fearful. My lawyer stayed in touch, keeping a careful record of every interaction, every attempt she made to circumvent the boundaries we had established. She tried subtle tactics, suggestions, emotional appeals, hints of regret, but none worked. I had learned the rules of this battlefield, and I wasn't about to be fooled by charm or guilt. One evening, she finally spoke openly, sitting across from me at the kitchen table. I didn't realize how far I'd pushed," she said, voice almost a whisper. I thought you'd just let it happen." Her words were heavy with confession, but I didn't answer immediately. I let the silence stretch, let her confront the weight of what she'd done. "You nearly destroyed our relationship for money and control," I said finally, calm, precise. "And the fact that you could consider such a thing without a thought for me, that's what I will never forgive. But you will learn from this, one way or another." She nodded, tears brimming. Not for me, but for the loss of power, the loss of certainty. And in that moment, I realized something critical. Revenge isn't just about punishment. It's about revealing truth, making someone face themselves. Emily had seen the consequences of her betrayal. She had felt the sting of reality hitting harder than any argument could. The house returned to its natural rhythm, quiet, solemn, but mine again. I reinforced security, updated legal protections, and quietly reclaimed control over every aspect of my life that had been tampered with. Friends and neighbors noticed a subtle change in me, not visible anger, but a quiet authority, a presence that could no longer be dismissed. Emily moved out a month later, her exit unceremonious, leaving behind a few boxes of belongings and a long silence. The house felt emptier, but safer. In her absence, I could finally breathe again, knowing that I had protected not just my property, but my dignity, my history, and the memory of my late husband who had built this life with me. Even now, I sometimes feel the shadow of betrayal in the hallways, a reminder that trust is fragile, and even those closest to you can turn against you. But that shadow also reminds me of my own strength. I didn't crumble. I didn't react impulsively. I observed, planned, and executed with precision. And I survived, not just physically, but emotionally. Months passed. Emily's absence echoed through the house in a way I hadn't expected. At first, it was unsettling, the silence of rooms once filled with chatter, laughter, even arguments. But gradually, it became a sanctuary. Every step I took reminded me that the walls, the floors, The very foundation were mine, not just legally, but morally, emotionally, spiritually. I had learned something profound through this ordeal. Betrayal by someone you love doesn't just hurt, it transforms you. It forces you to confront uncomfortable truths about trust, strength, and the fragility of human character. It forces you to ask yourself who you really are when the people you hold dearest attempt to undo everything you've built. I found solace in small rituals, making tea in the morning, tending the garden my husband had planted, opening old photo albums that reminded me of better times. The house was no longer just a building. It was a testament to endurance. I didn't need revenge anymore. The law, preparation, and patience had done what anger alone never could. They restored balance. Occasionally, Emily tried to reach out, emails, messages, hints of reconciliation. Each time I paused, felt the sting of memory, and then chose carefully. Not out of malice, but from understanding. Trust, once broken so profoundly, cannot simply be restored with words. It must be rebuilt over time, with effort, with accountability, with proof. I realized that my daughter's betrayal, as painful as it was, had also given me clarity. It revealed the depth of my own resilience, the sharpness of my mind when pushed, and the necessity of boundaries even in relationships that feel sacred. I could love again, but differently. I could trust again, but wisely. Life returned to a quieter rhythm. The house, my sanctuary, thrummed with the memory of what had been lost, what had been nearly taken, and what had been reclaimed. And somewhere in the shadows of betrayal, I found peace. Not because the pain vanished, but because I had faced it, navigated it, and emerged not broken, but vigilant, empowered, and clear-eyed. I look back now and understand the truth that once seemed impossible to accept. Betrayal doesn't define us. How we respond to it does. Life will test you through the ones you trust most. Some will betray you, some will disappoint you. But strength lies not in avoiding pain. It lies in confronting it, learning from it, and reclaiming your life with intelligence, dignity, and unwavering resolve. True power is measured not by the vengeance you exact, but by the integrity with which you rebuild after betrayal. The house is mine, my memories are mine, and my peace, hard won, is mine.